Hey, welcome back to another episode of the High Ticket Woman. Debbie Caudle here. Hey, today I have somebody with me that I've actually known for, let's see, six years, I guess. I met Jennifer Price 6 years ago when she was uh, teaching some of us how to be better coaches. And she was in the relationship coaching space at the time. And I signed up for one of her classes, and the rest is history. And now Jennifer has completely, done a 180. She is has moved over to the holistic health space. She is an international speaker, a best-selling author, and she's committed to building a healthier humanity. So, drawing on over a decade of experience, her expertise includes not just focusing on physical health, but and eliminating pharmaceutical dependencies, but really fostering good mental and emotional resilience. So I've been wanting to get her on the podcast for a while. Jennifer, welcome to the High Ticket Woman.
Thank you so much. I know this has been a long time coming, and I apologize. I've been hard to tie down, but I've had, brain injuries and I've had some things going on, but
You had,
ready to finally be here.
yeah. So I'm so glad you're here. And so let's talk about that because I know you once lived a really vibrant athletic life, and then some things happened to you, and you even had a near-death experience that shifted everything for you. So tell us tell us what happened.
um, where to begin? I've had more near death experiences than I can probably remember and
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 and anyone I know.
and rattle off. Yeah. So yeah, it's been an interesting life that I've lived. Like you said, I was very athletic growing up. I competed in the Junior Olympics in swimming twice as a child. Very athletic, very healthy. There was nothing I couldn't do if I put my mind to it. And then I think the first thing I noticed really in my teenage years was I started seeing a lot of inflammation. My swimming ability started going downhill. I used to, I was unstoppable and unbeatable. And then all of a sudden, I was really struggling to keep up with people that I could, easily, beat in a race, years previous. So I started seeing some shifts in my teenage years, and I wasn't really sure what was going on. A lot of it was digestive health, but then it affected energy. Fast forward a long time, many, many years later, I learned that what was going on back then was just my body reacting um, to gluten intolerance, and I had no idea that I was intolerant to gluten and dairy. But I've also learned that once you heal the gut from the inflammation and damage from gluten, not everyone, but some people can reintroduce dairy successfully and be okay. But yeah, I had to eliminate those from my diet, and then when I did that, I saw 15 years of really weird, odd health symptoms vanish within months. And in my early adult years, I was diagnosed with lupus, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, degenerative arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome. And then at one point they said, "You have cancer." 2 weeks later, they called up and they said, "Well, the good news is it's not cancer. The bad news is we don't really know what's going on." But, all of that really went back to gluten intolerance. So I was having autoimmune issues left and right. And when I eliminated gluten, and dairy, all of that vanished. And so I had a few years of extreme great health, normal life. Things were great. And then I was hit with black mold toxicity. It almost killed me. It almost killed my son. And we went to Dallas and we had rehabilitation at an environmental health center. Um, and
This from the black mold came from a house you were living in?
yeah, it came from the house that we were
Wharf?
living in. Yeah. Yeah, and so I came back, I built a house, specifically you've heard of greenhouses,
Yeah.
the type of house that I built was like 10 levels above a greenhouse. It was more like a safe house. When I built this house, every single detail, um, every ingredient of every material that we used, we thought about everything. And so we built a house in such a way to decrease the chances of black mold as much as humanly possible. And so we built this house, and then the windows. It turned out the windows in the factory setting, something was wrong. The windows were all leaking. So then this house was engulfed in black mold. So I had to go back to Dallas, and ended up being down there for 3 years that time. So I've had black mold toxicity 3 times in my life. I've had um, I've had 5 blunt force traumas to the head from various accidents, sports car, whatever. So I've had a lot of brain damage, and the last brain injury that I had last year, I was in tennis and I tripped over my own feet. And then with that one, I had a actual brain bleed, and so I've got a lot of brain damage that I am currently trying to still heal, and I think it's going to be several more years before I get to where I want to be. But I'm making great progress, and
You look great if
uh,
that's consolation. So,
thank you.
when I met you, you were in the relationship coaching space,
Yeah.
and we talked a little bit, off recording about that and what the shift, and I really whatever you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love for the audience, the listeners, to know how you shifted from being essentially a marriage coach to now being a holistic health coach.
Yeah. So to sum it up quickly and easily, I was in the relationship space as an international marriage interventionist. I worked with couples on Zoom long before COVID, and I worked with couples around the world, and I really enjoyed the work. I had some really phenomenal, um, miraculous stories with some of my clients, and it was really touching and really beautiful. And then I started hearing this little whisper, um, that I needed to shift into relationship coaching. And ironically, all of my couples, after going through this big marriage program I had, when I asked them what was your favorite part of the marriage program, what benefited you the most, um, across the board, every single person said the section where we worked on physical health. The program came alive. We got the most benefit from that. So then I started asking more questions. Why was the section on physical health? Why was that the most beneficial for your marriage? And I was getting all these answers because, I have more energy, I have more patience, I'm sleeping better, I'm eating better, therefore I'm feeling better, therefore we're happier people. And that really kind of translates into how you act and react in relationship. And at the same time, I was having so many people say, "You should do health coaching," and these little whispers from God, "Go into this space." But I fought it for years. I really fought it because I thought, "Well, what can I do? There's so many nutrition coaches, there's so many physical fitness coaches out there. I wanna do something really of substance that's really gonna transform people's lives." And I just had my mind stuck on the fact that relationship coaching would help people more, but it turns out, for me at least, focusing on holistic health is really the route that helps relationships the most because they feel better. And for all the reasons that my client stated to me. And so I was very happy to kind of put down relationship coaching and pick up health. And for a while, I was working just with women, and now I opened it up to men and women. And I love being in the holistic health space. And I've learned that it has to be a holistic approach. And so I focus on the triad, which is mind, body, and spirit.
Yep.
And you have to have all three balanced and equal in order to truly thrive in life. And so, yeah, it was a pretty easy switch once I made the decision, and it's been really fun and pleasant since.
Awesome. So how do you define thriving differently from just, getting by?
Yeah. So there's a big difference between surviving and thriving. And I think that God wants is calling all of us to thrive, and he wants all of us to thrive. And there is something beautiful about suffering. Um, if your mind and your heart are open during your time of suffering, you can learn a lot and grow a lot during that. But I do believe that God wants us to thrive, and that all of us deserve to thrive. And so to me, the difference between surviving and thriving. Surviving, you're barely getting by. You might be happy with most things in your life. You might be fulfilled in certain areas, but then in other areas, you don't really feel that fulfillment, or you may not feel a sense of purpose. But when you're thriving, I think that every area of your life is successful. You feel fulfilled in every area. And if you're lacking in a particular area, you can still be thriving overall. But a person who's truly thriving, I think, has each area of life is fulfilled. They feel purpose. They feel joy, satisfaction. It's lighting them up somehow. I think thriving is beautiful, and you can thrive. Also, I've learned you can thrive during and through and right after trauma and hardship. You just have to know how. And resilience is a big part of that. But I think when we build all these muscles, then as you go through hardships and traumas, you can still thrive. Um, and if you do experience a trauma or a setback that's really severe and it's impossible to thrive, which there are situations, death of people that we're really close to, loss of health, loss of house, or there's certain traumas that are it's hard to thrive through them, but you can learn how to survive through those and thrive in some areas of your life while you're healing and adjusting and growing, and the resiliency, if you have that muscle built in, then you can bounce back a lot faster, and learn how to thrive in a different way, post trauma or post hardship.
Yeah, I keep coming back to your own personal experience in my mind and thinking, how did you thrive? Let's just talk about your brain traumas, the head injuries. What did thriving look like for you in your own personal journey in those situations?
Yeah. So for me, um, I would say that I was thriving, with 2 of the brain injuries, but 3 of them were severe enough that there was barely survival. Um, and with one of them, the doctors looked at me and said, "You have such little brain activity that, according to science, you should not even be conscious. You should not even be alive." And so to me, a lot of people looked at me. I couldn't drive. I could barely form sentences. I could walk, but I was tripping over my own feet and falling a lot. I couldn't remember family members sometimes, distant family members. Um, a lot of people would look at an individual like that and say they're surviving, they're barely getting by, they're barely alive. But to me, knowing how I used to live and knowing what life was like in that time, on one hand, it was survival, and I wasn't doing well at all. But on the other hand, when I would hear doctors say, technically, scientifically, you shouldn't be alive, you shouldn't, and if so, you shouldn't be conscious, you should be in a coma, shouldn't be able to be um, communicating as well as you are. So to me, that was thriving. To me, that to be able to be in that situation and still able to form sentences enough that people could understand most of the time, and to be able to walk when a lot of times I was tripping and falling. To me, that was thriving because I was alive. And if and so I got to a point where I'm like, if I'm alive, I'm thriving because it's better than the alternative. But at the same time, it was just barely surviving, because I didn't leave my home for 15 months. I didn't leave other than an occasional doctor's office visit. I didn't leave my property for 15 months. And that's, being homebound is traumatic in itself. And so in some ways, for a while, it was just survival. But then the resiliency is key. And I think if you've built your resiliency muscle up and you know how to bounce back and how to be resilient, um, you kind of go through those things, those habits, and we can dive into some of those if you want. But You just have these habits that help propel you forward. And so I just kind of tapped into that. How can I be resilient? How can I bounce back from this? And I think that is the part that kind of fast forwards you and leaps you over a lot to get you back to a point where you're thriving despite whatever difficulties you're dealing with. I think it all boils down to resiliency and mindset.
Yeah, and, mindset and nutrition and exercise and, those things often get siloed, right? Like, they're all these separate things, but you've really integrated them together into this triad, to make, wellness meaningful and sustainable. So you can talk about these daily habits. Let's go there. Let's talk about that.
So daily habits are going to look different for different people. Um, but there's a famous quote, and I don't remember what the quote is or who said it, but basically the gist of it says that success and is specifically resiliency and the ability to bounce back and the ability to either survive or, if possible, thrive during a hardship. It really boils down to your habits, your daily habits. And if you can have those dialed in, healthy daily habits, if you have those dialed in and they're truly habits, then when you're faced with adversity, when you're faced with a hardship or a trauma, as long as you're maintaining those, you're gonna survive easier, you're going to have a higher chance of thriving and bouncing back. But again, those habits are gonna be different for different people. But, um, but I look at just some of the basics, okay? So sleep is one. You really have to have great, quality sleep is really important because your body can't heal if you're not getting proper sleep. Sunshine, preferably in the morning. The vitamin D, it's great for mind, body, and spirit. Um, Grounding is really important to make sure because we're constantly absorbing toxins and EMF and all, so if you can ground yourself by walking in the sand or in the dirt or in the grass every day, hugging a tree, sounds crazy, but it really does ground your body. And when your body is grounded, your body heals faster, be it emotionally, mentally, or physically. Your body heals faster when you're grounded. So I think that's really important. Hydration, with quality water, not bottled plastic water because of the plasticizers. But I drink distilled water. I have a countertop distiller, but distilled water or another, very high quality filter. And so hydration is great. Of course, you want a nutrient dense diet. So a lot of greens, a lot of vegetables. Everything needs to be organic and as high quality as possible. So nutrient dense diet. And then you want to move your body every day, exercise, move, even if it's just a 20-minute gentle walk. If you feel like you have such low energy and you can't even do that, I recommend standing on a vibration plate several times a day. I recommend that for everyone. That's one of the first things I do every morning. I stand on my vibration plate. And you can answer emails, you can put on a podcast, you can even put on a meditation and meditate. But 20 minutes on that vibration plate, it wakes up every cell in your body, it increases circulation, lymphatic flow. So I think a vibration plate is most healing. Caveat with that, though, you do not want to stand on a vibration plate if you are actively battling cancer. So you want to talk to a functional doctor or an integrative doctor about that. But so that's something to avoid. And I don't know about pregnancy, but otherwise, a vibration plate is really healthy. Um, and then maintaining a healthy mindset, healthy psychology is really important. A very strong, rock solid mindset helps get you through a lot of things. And then something that a lot of people don't talk about with, be it relationships, healing, success in life, anything, for whatever reason, people never talk about identity. And that
Hmm.
blows my I mean, some people do, but it's not at the forefront of conversation. It's not at the forefront of counseling and coaching, with most people. So when I come across people who are doing identity work, I think you have the secret. You know what you're doing because without a strong identity, when you're hit with a trauma or a hardship or even something that's like more ongoing, like chronic, but not a severe situation. But like, for example, if a person is experiencing marital problems, and it's not the end of the world and they're not talking divorce, they're just experiencing some low level but ongoing chronic marital issues. Um, to me, identity work is the very first thing you do because without identity, when you don't know who you truly are and your worth, you're not going to have confidence. And when you're lacking confidence and you don't know who you truly are at your core, then marital problems, financial issues are going to pop up.
Also, yeah.
Yeah, business success, every area. So I think, you know, on a daily basis, working on your identity and really knowing who you are is really important. I look at the 12 pillars of health and I
Mhm.
think, okay, how can you I kinda developed it myself, just the 12 pillars, I just made it up, according to what makes sense to me and what gets me and clients the best, results, but if you can do daily habits every day to support those 12 pillars of health, I think you're gonna be in a really good situation.
I wanna go back to identity because I think what you're saying is so key. The problem that I see, and I really want you to speak to this, is that we tie our identity with with roles that we have,
Yes.
roles that we hope to have. Like,
Yes.
I really wanna be a mother, but I don't have any children yet, or
Yeah.
I am a career person, or I am this, and then something happens in life and that role shifts or changes or it doesn't, it doesn't actually happen the way we want.
Yeah.
Then we begin to question, well, who am I? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. I love to do an exercise with groups of people, and I'd love to do it right now if it's okay. I'd like
Sure.
to ask your listeners, and if you wanna do this yourself, go for it. But grab a pen and paper and answer a couple of questions. I like to ask people, write down just bullet points, not sentences, just bullet points, who you are. And Debbie, you touched on like, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, whatever. Write down on a piece of paper who you are. Just take like 20 seconds. And whatever comes to your mind, every single thing, who you are, write that down. And I'll give you a minute, but everybody at home, just stop and ask yourself, who am I? And write that down. Anything you think of, everything. So when I do this exercise, I always ask for audience participation. I ask for people, I'll say, if you feel like, I ask for volunteers, raise your hand if you feel like you have a pretty strong identity. You really know who you are and you feel confident in that, you feel strong in that. And I usually get, 5 to 10 hands who go up. And I'll pick a few people and I'll say, "All right, come up and tell everybody, tell the group, who you are." And I give each person the opportunity to speak before I give my input. But I hear things like most of the time I hear I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a Christian, I'm a teacher, police officer, I'm a lawyer, I'm a gardener, I'm a skier, I'm a golfer, I'm a swimmer, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, brother, friend, this entrepreneur, I'm this, I'm not, whatever. Every now and then I hear people say, "Well, I'm happy, I'm joyful, I'm cheerful, whatever." I'm like, "Okay." So then I'll look at one of the people who gave me an answer like I'm a husband or wife, mother, father, spouse, brother, sister, daughter. And I'll say, okay, and I hate to talk like this, but God forbid your husband and all of your children are all in the car and they're in a car accident and they all die. And now you're no longer wife and now you're no longer mother. God forbid, who are you? And then, I get long pauses of silence. Well, I'm a lawyer, I'm a teacher, I'm a golfer. Okay, God forbid you get fired and you can no longer have your career. Now, who are you? And then people go to hobbies. Well, I'm a skier, I'm a golfer, I'm a gardener. Okay, God forbid you're in a car accident and you lose your arms or your legs and you can't do those activities anymore. Now, who are you? Well, I'm a Christian. Okay, just for the sake of argument, set religion aside for just a second. Who are you? These are roles that you play. Being a husband or a mother, it's a role. Hopefully, a lifelong role for me as a mother. Hopefully, I won't lose my son or my granddaughters. Hopefully, it's a lifelong role, but it's a role. Being a coach or a teacher or whatever profession, that's another role that you play. Um, God willing, for a long time in your life if you enjoy it. Take these things away. These are roles that you play. These are things that you do, the hobbies that you enjoy. Those are things that you do that you enjoy. Who are you? You can't sit there and tell me you're a gardener. Like that's something that you do, but who are you as a person? And then I get a lot of blank stares. But the best answers from the crowd I've ever gotten was a crowd in Romania. And
Wow.
they were it blew my mind. I was like, "You're my favorite audience ever," because they were saying things like, they're saying things that I've eventually got myself to when I put myself through this exercise. It was things like, "I am love. I am intelligence. I am joy. I am curious. I am kind. I am generous." That's who you are as a person. And when you say I am kind or I am generous, it doesn't mean that I can't occasionally have selfish moments or that I can't occasionally not be kind to somebody because I haven't had sleep, I'm in a bad mood and I snapped. We're all human, but overall, who are you as a person? Kind, generous, love. And so that's kind of the approach I take. And I think that when people dial in who they are, um they don't always then I have them break down, "Okay, now that you know how you should look at yourself and how you should define yourself, now write that down." And then I get things like, "I am ugly, I am mean, I am bitchy, I am," and people focus on the negative things. I'm like, "Okay, that's great. Keep that negative list going, get it all out. Now write down all the good things about yourself." And if you really are at such a low place in your life that you can't come up with anything positive about who you are as a person, write down all the things that you want to be, that you wish to be, because you can become that. You can heal, you can work on yourself, you can become anything, whoever, and whatever you want. So write those things down. And then once you have an idea of who it is you want to be and the person you want to create, now you can actually do something about it. But you've got to sit down and take a moment to think about it.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. Identity isn't about so much of the time we identify by what we do, not
Ah,
by who we are, our characteristics. That's
yeah.
awesome. So tie that in then, like, what is the next step when it once a person gets it and they realize, "Oh, I'm defining myself by all the wrong things," how do you now integrate that in to their physical health?
So a lot of people will look at themselves um, when we look at physical health. If somebody is overweight or they're sick or they're battling autoimmune or cancer or something, I'll say, okay, let's talk about your health. Tell me who you are in your health. Well, I'm fat. I'm I'm lazy because I have no energy. I'm sick. I hear that. I'm sick. I am sick. I have cancer.
Mm,
And with as much love and respect as I can possibly give, I can't tell you how much it hurts me and pains me and upsets me to hear people talk like that because the subconscious is always listening. So if your subconscious is constantly hearing you say, I have cancer, I am sick, I have diabetes, I have a horrible marriage, I have this or that or whatever, the subconscious says, oh, well, if we're hearing this all the time, we better believe it. And if we now believe it, we better start doing things to support that. So if I'm fat, I better eat a lot of unhealthy food and never exercise and have a really poor mindset about myself. If I have cancer, that means I'm sick and I'm probably gonna die or there's a chance of death. And gosh, now this and it's just you spiral, right? Now you can't change the fact that somebody might be overweight or have diabetes or be battling cancer. Um, but I think people just need to change their language about it. Instead of saying, I have cancer, say, I'm on the way to becoming cancer free. I am on the way to perfect health. You know, you don't have to sit there and lie to yourself and lie to others and say, I am perfect health if you are battling something and you can't say that. But I actually know people with a cancer diagnosis who have been told they only have 3 months to live. And they sit there and say, I am cancer free. I am perfectly healthy. And they say that day after day after day. And then the subconscious says, oh, well, maybe we are healthy. Maybe we should kill these cancer cells and lose the weight. And so I think that your language is really important when it comes to physical health. The way that you talk about yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the way you talk about yourself to others, it's all really important because your subconscious is always listening. So you have to look at language, but you can't just look at language and stop there. You have to understand that there's a lot of low level, deep seated beliefs that's fueling that language. And those beliefs is where the identity ties in. Do you identify yourself as being overweight or sick or traumatized from rape or what? Like, how do you believe about yourself? And I don't say that lightly. I was raped in college, and so I'm not saying that lightly. I'm just saying, do you look at yourself as this victim of something, or do you look at yourself and have the belief that you are in control of your health and that you can change just about anything in your health if you want to? And it all comes back to identity. How do you look at yourself? How do you want to look at yourself? And if you're looking at yourself and saying, well, I'm sick, I have brain damage, I am deficit in brain areas, or do you say, okay, I'm in the process of healing, I'm in the process of getting to where I want to go? Once you change your identity on that and you say, okay, I'm actually a very healthy person that just so happens to have a few too many cancer cells in my body right now, or overall, I'm a fairly healthy person, but I just need to heal my brain in certain areas a little bit more, you know? So I think it really comes back to how do you view yourself? And sometimes it's hard to shift to that. But if you can shift your identity
Yeah.
regarding your physical health, then your language is going to change. And when your language and your thoughts change, your beliefs change, and that all pushes you into actions every day that support the beliefs.
Yeah, it really does boil down to initially how you're talking to yourself.
Mhm.
I completely agree with you. Let's talk about the realities of life for, a lot of my listeners are women, and, there's a lot of women out there who are juggling a lot of things. They're juggling motherhood, they're juggling jobs and marriage and faith and so many different responsibilities. How do you help women prioritize having a life that is flourishing and functional versus, like, I'm just barely hanging on? And is there one like, where does a woman like that start?
Who's just overwhelmed with so many things.
Yeah.
Um, I think you start, first of all, by understanding that you simply cannot do it all. I love to delegate as much as I can, but just realize you cannot do it all. You're not supposed to do it all. You're not supposed to do everything perfectly. So prioritize, I look at I think you can kind of categorize most things in your life and choose whatever language you like, but like you have signals and then you have stuff. The signals are the little whispers you hear, the nudges from God, the nudges maybe from your own heart. What's most important in your day? And if you have 20 things to do or 20 different areas that you feel like you need to serve, I like to say, okay, hone in on the signals. What are the most important? What are the top three things that have to get done today? All the other stuff is just stuff. And if you get to it, great. And if you don't, that's fine. But I'm a big fan of prioritizing and saying, not from a cryptic place, not from a place of fear or doom and gloom, but from a place of just curiosity and wanting to live with purpose and with intention. Asking yourself, what if I die tomorrow? What if today is my last day? How do I want to spend it? Do I want to spend it folding the laundry and do or cleaning the house, or do I want to spend it on the floor reading books with my child? Like, yes, you need to clean, yes, laundry needs to get done, but what's most important? And I think if you can narrow that down and focus more on the signals and less of the stuff, then at the very least, you can finish and close out your day saying, I got done the most important things. And
Yeah.
the other stuff, as important as it feels sometimes, maybe it's not as important. And that's helped me get through. And I think that's helped other people too. But everybody is so different. And
Yeah.
how do you approach that?
Well, yeah, I was sitting here thinking while you're talking, like, so many women are people pleasers, so part of their identity is wrapped up in what will people think? If they come into my home right now and I haven't swept or dusted or vacuumed, what are people gonna think? And so to be able to let go of other people's opinions as part of your identity and go, "You know what? What matters in this moment is that I go spend time with Jeff." That
Yes.
that or, work is less important than connecting with him. Like,
Yeah.
so, my answer to your question, like, what really matters at the end of the day is, did my husband feel loved
Yes.
by me today? Did he feel connected with me today? Did he have an opportunity to say what was in his head and his heart to me today? Or was I so focused on, getting my content out today and writing my content for tomorrow and seeing my clients and doing this and doing that, that I missed that opportunity?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're barely scratching the surface here, Jennifer. So I think I do actually seriously think we need a part 2 to this. Now I know you do one-on-one coaching, but you also do retreats. I really want you to talk about your retreats because that sounds intriguing and fun. So tell
Yeah.
us about that.
Yeah, so I have a beautiful property here, and and I have built my property out. A lot of people come and they're like, "This is like a mini resort," and that's actually my goal. It's like a health resort because I have an ozone swimming pool, which is the healthiest a way to clean a swimming pool, even better than like saltwater pools. So I've got an ozone pool, hot tub, and cold plunge. I've got a little home gym. I've got a yoga swing where you hang upside down. I've got hyperbaric oxygen, infrared sauna, red light therapy. I've got all these different
Playing. I'm coming out. Wow.
I've got all these different healing modalities that
Yeah.
I use and that I like to promote. I've got multiple vibration plates so we can all sit and shake together and so anyway, I've got the property built out. I've got organic fruit and vegetable gardens and a huge gourmet kitchen in the villa. And so I like to bring people in and just educate them and teach them the 12 pillars of health, the triad. And then what I love to do is teach people these little shifts that they can make in their lives that will have just exponential effects in really healthy ways. Like, for example, the vibration plate, 10 to 20 minutes on a vibration plate every morning. Try it and email me in a week and tell me what you've experienced. It's
Does it make you itchy?
Some people say that their skin will itch in the beginning, but you get used to it, just power through it. It's not bad, and some people are like in certain areas, they're like, "Ooh, this hurts." So just like shift, like the skin can get like feel irritated a little bit, but you get used to it. It's waking up cells and nerves that aren't used to being awake. So to me, that's a positive sign, keep going. But I love to teach people I'm not a fan of diets. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of restrictive dieting, like cutting back how much you eat and depriving yourself of things like, of course you want to deprive yourself of like crack and cocaine and things that aren't healthy, or like, a tremendous amount of or even a moderate amount of processed foods. You don't want to participate in that. But I'm not a fan of saying, okay, cut out all these different things in your diet. My first approach is let's add in this one thing.
Yeah.
Just do that one thing. Add that one thing in every day
Yeah.
and then go from there. Because what I have found with food, for example, is if you start adding in really healthy things like green juice every morning, your body starts to appreciate all of the nutrients in the green juice, and in time, your body wants less sugar, less fats, less whatever processed foods you're used to eating. So I'm not a fan of, like, ripping off and just, being really it's too hard. It's not
Yeah.
sustainable.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
There's still that craving,
yeah,
whether it's physiological or
yeah.
psychological, there's still that craving for
It's there, and
yeah,
it's strong, it's strong. So,
really, really strong,
bring
yeah.
people onto the property and let them experience juicing, because if you've never done it, buying a juicer and doing it, it can be really intimidating, and it can feel overwhelming, and it can feel like a lot, and so I like to bring people in and let them experience it for several days and experience the vibration plate or the red light therapy or the sauna or whatever healing modalities I've got a lot. I've got the compression pants, all the fun things. And so they can experience all these different things and see what resonates most with them. Because I think if you kind of tap into just get quiet, listen to your body will tell you which thing it really wants and needs right now. So I like to bring people in and let them experience all those things and then just teach them the things about diet and how to add these things in. And then when you experience it, you go home and you say, wow, this is actually not only is this doable, not only do I like this and enjoy it, but it's actually 1,000 times easier than what I thought was gonna be the case, so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's sort of a combination of some structured teaching,
Yeah,
yeah, and then people can enjoy the property and the
yeah.
various things that you've got going on the property, and this is in Virginia.
Yeah, just south of Washington, DC, not too far from DC. Yeah, it allow they get I try to balance it so that there's some education, but they experience all the different things, and then also some downtime and relaxation time too. And so I bring in a massage therapist, and sometimes I'll bring in an esthetician for facials, and so it's truly relaxing, and they walk away just
So are these like 3-day retreats over the weekend, or do you do them during the weekdays?
Yeah, a long weekend. Yeah, I've never done a week-long retreat, although I would be really interested in that, but, I'd love to do that, but I've never done that. But, yeah, it's always been either I've yeah, it's either a weekend or a long weekend.
Interesting. So how do people find you? Whether they want a retreat or they wanna work with you one-on-one?
Yeah, so you can just reach out through my website. It's jenniferprice.com.
Mhm.
And, yeah, or, Instagram, my handle is America's Health Coach. 'Cause they're probably the 2 best places.
Okay. We will put all of that in the show notes so that people can reach out to you. One last word of wisdom. So, what do you most hope that listeners will carry away from our conversation today?
Gosh, that wow. Not necessarily from our conversation, but the one thing that I really wish everyone knew, is that how miraculous the body is and how no matter what you're dealing with, be it, um, relationship issues or physical health issues or um, something in your career is not quite going how you want it. Whatever's going on,
Mhm.
the human is so I don't even know what the right word would be. Really just miraculous in our abilities to heal, our abilities to create. So my message is the thing I wish everyone really knew is that we are capable of so much more than we realize. And you can do anything you wanna do. So if you want to heal your marriage, quickly, you can. If you want to heal your physical body quickly, you can. If you want to bounce back from, heal from, and build your resilience so that you heal from whatever traumas you've experienced in life, you can. Um, and the biggest part of this message is that you can do anything you want to do. It's always a lot easier than you think.
Mm.
It's always a lot easier. And I can't tell you how many I don't do trauma work anymore, but I can't tell you I don't know the number of clients that I've worked with, major traumas, like stuff you'd see in the movies and some of the worst things you could read about in books. And they come to me with these traumas they've experienced, mostly in childhood, sometimes adult life, and they come back and they I tell them, "I can help you in 1 session, 1 hour is all I need." And they'll put it off for months, this one session, because 'cause they're so terrified of what it's gonna feel like, what they're gonna have to go through. And then 45 minutes after, into this session, they're like, "Wow, that was actually nice. That was actually fun. I actually enjoyed that. I had no why didn't I do this 3 months ago?" Like, because fear, the unknown.
Right.
But yeah, biggest message, you
Yeah.
can do anything, you can heal from anything, and it's usually easier, a lot easier than you realize.
Yeah. You said something really important there, and that might be our part 2 here is the role that fear places in holding us back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. Obviously, you have lived your you are the expert. You have lived this. You have transformed your own life through multiple injuries and illnesses. And here you are today, paying it forward to everybody. So people reach out to Jennifer. I mean, I think I've known her for a number of years now. She's got a lot of wisdom, a lot of things to offer. And as she's saying, healing takes intention and effort, and you don't have to do it alone. You got experts like Jennifer out there willing to help you. So, you know what I'm going to say? I always say it at the end of a podcast episode. Keep showing up, keep staying curious. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be teachable. I'll see you next week.